She returned from a business trip earlier than expected without informing anyone. She was shocked too. Rain pattered gently against the cab's window as it pulled up to the curb in the quiet, still darkness of early morning. Amina stepped out slowly, clutching her suitcase in one hand and shielding her head with her purse. She glanced up at her house, all the lights off, the neighborhood still asleep. A faint smile played on her lips. She was exhausted, her eyes heavy from the red-eye flight and back-to-back meetings, but her heart was light. The trip had gone well. She had closed a deal no one believed she could. The presentation in Dubai had stunned the board. She had done it. Now, she was ready to be home, to see the look on her husband's face when she showed up a day early, unannounced, to hug her daughter tight before breakfast. Dragging her suitcase along the path, wheels echoing slightly on the wet stone, Amina pulled her keys from her bag. She moved quietly, careful not to wake anyone. The plan was to slip into the kitchen, make tea, and surprise them both with pancakes like she used to. She smiled to herself as she reached the gate, unlocked it slowly, and stepped onto the porch. The voiceover cuts in, soft and reflective. Sometimes, the best surprises are the ones we don't plan. But what happens when the surprise is yours? Amina's hand touched the doorknob. It turned with no resistance. The door creaked open, already unlatched. She froze, the smile fading, heart beginning to race. Amina stepped over the threshold cautiously, suitcase still in hand. Something felt off. The air inside the house was warm but oddly still, the silence too heavy to be comfortable. The dim hallway lights glowed faintly, casting long shadows on the wooden floor. She paused, scanning the space. Her brows furrowed when her eyes landed on a coat draped over the hallway rack, a woman's coat. Not hers. Stylish, newer. She didn't recognize it. Her heart gave a quiet thump. Maybe a guest? Maybe her sister-in-law dropped by? She moved forward slowly, letting the door click shut behind her, careful not to make noise. As she passed the staircase, a sound drifted down, muffled at first, then clearer. A soft giggle. A woman's voice. Then a man's, familiar. Her husband's. The world around her began to spin, but her feet moved of their own will. Up the stairs. One step at a time. Each creak beneath her heel stabbed deeper into her chest. As she climbed, flashes of memory intruded, Omar hugging her tightly at the airport, whispering, "Come back soon." Her daughter, Yusra, blowing kisses from the porch, waving. A photo of their wedding on the hallway wall. Their laughter, their promises. The voices upstairs grew clearer, playful now. Unapologetic. The bedroom door came into view, slightly open. Her breath caught. She pushed it open just enough. There he was, her husband. Shirtless. In bed. Arms wrapped around a younger woman. Both laughing like they were home. Amina stood frozen for a heartbeat, the world collapsing in silence. Then, slowly, she stepped back. No scream. No tears. She turned quietly, descending the stairs the same way she came. Amina slipped out of the house as silently as she had entered, her suitcase dragging behind her like dead weight. The rain had stopped, but everything felt soaked, her clothes, her skin, her soul. She didn't look back at the house. She couldn't. Her steps were unsteady, legs moving on instinct while her mind replayed the image in the bedroom over and over again like a nightmare on loop. The sound of their laughter haunted her ears. She wandered through the quiet streets, unsure where she was headed. The city hadn't fully woken up yet, the air still held the grey silence of dawn. Shops were shuttered, streets nearly empty, only a few early risers passing by with coffee in hand. Amina walked past them all, unnoticed, unseen. Her suitcase bumped against curbs, splashed through puddles, but she didn't care. She walked aimlessly for what felt like hours before her legs finally gave out near a small park. She dropped onto a weathered bench near the fountain, her body folding in on itself. Her eyes were open but blank, her expression hollow. Her hands rested limply on her lap. She didn't even notice the old woman who sat down beside her until a soft voice broke the silence. "You look like someone who just saw the truth naked," the woman said gently, holding out a crumpled tissue. Amina stared at her for a long second, and then, as if the words had unlocked something, she began to sob. Loud, shaking, gut-wrenching sobs. The woman didn't ask questions. She simply placed a wrinkled hand on Amina's back, letting her cry. After a while, when the tears slowed, the woman smiled. "Come. Let me make you some tea. You shouldn't sit here alone." Amina hesitated for only a moment. Then she nodded. She couldn't go back home, not yet. Maybe not ever. The apartment was tucked away on the second floor of an old building nestled between a tailor's shop and a closed bakery. The hallway smelled faintly of cinnamon and old wood. Hajara led Amina upstairs slowly, her steps deliberate, patient, as though she knew that rushing would break whatever fragile thread was holding Amina together. When they entered, Amina paused. The space was warm, cozy, and alive. Ferns and vines hung from the ceiling and windows, their green leaves casting soft shadows in the amber morning light. Shelves lined the walls, overflowing with old books, framed photos, and hand-painted mugs. A woven mat lay at the center of the floor, worn but clean. The air was filled with the faint aroma of mint and cardamom. Hajara gestured for Amina to sit at a small wooden table near the window. She put the kettle on, humming softly as she moved, giving Amina time to breathe. Moments later, she set down 2 mismatched cups of tea, steam rising in gentle spirals. Amina stared into her cup, then whispered hoarsely, "I caught my husband cheating this morning." Hajara didn't gasp or flinch. She simply nodded, eyes kind. "I remember that morning," she said quietly. 30 years ago. I walked in on mine too." Amina looked up, startled. What did you do?" Hajara's smile was sad but steady. "I left. Then I returned. Not to him, but to myself." Amina blinked, her lips parted slightly. That line hit deeper than anything had since the moment she walked through her door. The words clung to her like truth, a lifeline in the fog. She didn't know what would come next, but for the first time since that morning, she felt like she wasn't completely alone. Hajara rose from her seat without a word and walked over to a small wooden chest beneath the window. She opened it carefully, as if unlocking something sacred, and pulled out an old leather-bound journal, its corners worn, the spine cracked from use. She returned to the table and set it down gently in front of Amina. "Write it," she said softly, placing a pen beside it. "Before you scream it. Get it out of your body." Amina stared at the journal for a moment, hesitant. The cover felt rough under her fingertips, real in a way that everything else in her world suddenly didn't. Slowly, she opened it. On the very first page, in a delicate but firm hand, were the words, "Day 1, I saw who he really was." A lump rose in her throat. She picked up the pen. Her fingers trembled. She hadn't written in years, not like this. Not her own truth. But something inside her broke loose. The words came, spilling fast and raw. The suitcase, the laughter, the door that was never supposed to be open. She didn't stop. Not for the tears, not for the shaking. By the time she closed the journal, her breathing had steadied. Her eyes were clearer. She wouldn't go back and explode. Not yet. She would return quietly, eyes open. She would watch. She would gather her truth, and she would plan. That night, as the city hummed softly beneath a darkening sky, Amina returned home. The house stood just as she had left it hours earlier, too quiet, too normal. She stood outside the front door for a long moment before reaching for the handle. Her hand was steady now. Her suitcase rolled behind her like a shadow. Inside, Omar was in the living room, casually flipping through television channels. He turned as soon as he heard the door open, jumping slightly. His face lit up in a way that would have once warmed her. "Amina," he said, standing. "You didn't say you were coming back today." His voice held a nervous lilt beneath the practiced cheer. Amina forced a smile, light and calm. "I wanted to surprise you." He chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck, and stepped forward to hug her. She let him. It felt hollow. She glanced past him. The house looked untouched, reset, like nothing had happened. She walked into the kitchen, hanging her coat, and asked if Yusra had eaten. Her daughter came running into her arms moments later, squealing with joy. Amina laughed, lifting her off the floor. Her warmth for her child was genuine, undamaged. She cooked dinner like she always did, measured, smooth, like muscle memory. She even kissed Omar goodnight on the cheek before heading upstairs. In the bathroom mirror, under the soft hum of the vanity light, Amina stared at her reflection. Her eyes were deeper now, colder. Her lips barely moved as she whispered, "I'm not the same woman who left." The days that followed passed like scenes in a play Amina no longer believed in, each moment rehearsed, every smile calculated. She moved through her home like a shadow of the woman she once was, quietly watching, waiting, listening. While Omar laughed, played the doting husband, and kissed her forehead like nothing had changed, Amina was working, in silence. Each morning before sunrise, she returned to the journal Hajara had given her, writing down everything. And then she began collecting. She started with the phone bills. Hidden behind Omar's gym membership and fuel receipts were late-night calls, long ones, to a number she didn't recognize. She searched the number online, found a name, then a social media profile. Using a fake name and a carefully crafted persona, she sent the woman a friend request. Within an hour, it was accepted. The woman posted often, selfies, cryptic captions, little hints of a secret life. Amina scrolled through, piecing the puzzle together. One evening, Yusra innocently mentioned that Daddy had taken her piggy bank to the office. Amina's stomach turned. She waited until Omar left for work the next morning and checked the girl's savings jar. It was nearly empty. At night, when the house was asleep, she printed screenshots, copied account numbers, saved images, receipts, messages. She tucked them all into a plain white folder and labeled it with a single word in bold black ink, truth. It wasn't rage that moved her. It was clarity. She wasn't gathering revenge, she was collecting freedom. A week passed. The house buzzed with excitement as streamers were hung, balloons floated to the ceiling, and the smell of vanilla cake filled the kitchen. It was Yusra's birthday, her 7th, and Amina had made sure it would be special. Friends and family gathered, filling the living room with laughter and chatter. Children ran through the hallways, giggling. Omar stood beside the cake, grinning, greeting guests like the perfect father and husband. He kissed Amina on the cheek in front of everyone, arm casually draped around her. She smiled back, warm, graceful, poised. No one noticed the tension in her eyes, the quiet steel in her voice as she welcomed guests, passed out drinks, made small talk. When the moment came, Amina stepped forward and gently tapped her spoon against a glass. The chatter died down. Everyone turned to her. "Before we cut the cake," she said, her voice steady, "I have a small gift I'd like to share." She reached for the remote and pressed play. The television screen flickered, then displayed a grainy video, audio of a call, intimate laughter, a man's voice unmistakably Omar's, murmuring to the woman on the other end. The room fell into stunned silence. A cousin gasped. Someone dropped a plate. Amina turned to her daughter, who stood clutching her teddy bear. Her voice softened. "I didn't want you to ever think silence is strength." Omar moved toward her, stammering, "Amina, please, I can explain." She raised a hand. "You lost me the moment you stopped respecting me." Amina stepped outside, her heels clicking softly on the driveway, her daughter's small hand nestled firmly in hers. Behind them, the sounds of stunned whispers and shifting feet faded into the distance. She didn't look back. Not at Omar. Not at the house. Not at the life that had crumbled behind her. The rain had started again, a gentle drizzle this time, but Amina felt nothing but lightness as she walked forward with her child by her side. Cut to 6 months later. Sunlight streamed through the windows of a modest but warm office space. Amina sat at a sleek desk, reviewing client files. The glass door behind her read, "Amina Khan Consulting, Rebuilding Begins Here." She lived on her own now, in a cozy apartment filled with plants and color and freedom. The hallway echoed with small footsteps as Yusra burst through the door after school. Amina stood, arms wide, catching her in a tight hug. Her voice returned in a soft voiceover. "The truth hurts. But it heals too, if you let it guide you." In the final shot, Amina sits at her desk. She gently places 2 journals side by side, Hajara's, worn and cracked, and her own, fresh but already filled. Its cover reads, "The day I came back too soon." But this time, her return wasn't a mistake, it was a beginning.